Let me start sharing my screen and just get set up while we just wait to see if anyone else wants to join. Damn. Okay. I've not actually looked at Bitcoin the past couple of hours, so I mean that's kind of good that we've moved up a little bit. Give it another uh, give it another 30 seconds. No permission to chat. Why? Don't understand. Why can't people? Mm, people can't seem to chat in the live trading. I don't know if adding community moderator is going to do much, but let's see if um, Pepe Dude or Night Ranger or Cryptic or someone can have a look at why you guys can't seem to chat in the chat, which is a bit weird. Thank you. No, Cryptic is on it. He's like always on it. He's like literally you at him at like 5 in the morning and he'll be on it. It's crazy. Okay. We've only got a couple of people, but that's fine. To be fair, I did kind of just bring this on. You know, people probably do expect stream at 6, and then I end up just being horrendously late, but that's fine. Hopefully Cryptic gets the chat sorted, and yeah, Sharky, Alexa, either of you want to obviously ask me any questions, you can. Yeah, hopefully I'll see it pop up in the chat. So, let's get started then. So yeah, as usual, start off looking at Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, we've had this development with this trend line that I've been keeping an eye on for a little while. Just kind of like middle of November, um we had this trend line, just kind of on the smaller scale, smaller time frame, because we've got this yellow and red or pink trend line that kind of represent the channels that Bitcoin has been in for a couple of years, actually. So I always kind of start off just looking at this on a higher time frame. So as we saw back in November, start of November, just a couple of weeks before that, obviously, remember we had that flash crash. And then just at the start of November, we broke this yellow trend line that we've been holding since November 2023. So 2 years down the line, we have broken that trend line. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, the bear market's coming, but it's just possibly a warning sign. We've got this red or pink, however you want to see it, trend line that I have drawn, and we have a couple of touch points. You know, the first touch point was back in COVID when Bitcoin was, I know it's crazy to say, but Bitcoin was $3,700 back in March 2020. And then we had a couple of touch points here when Bitcoin was 15, 16K back in 2022, at the end of 2022. And we haven't actually touched that trend line since. And there is obviously a possibility that we do come to retest that trend line. Now, I was personally looking at a retest of the 75 to 77, 78K region. We didn't get that. We haven't got that yet. It's not completely ruled out. So I'm going to zoom in on the daily time frame at the moment. So I have said that, you know, we could possibly finish this correction as an ABC. But the problem is, if we do finish that correction as an ABC, the A wave and the C wave typically tend to be the same size. So if we call this an A wave down, B wave up, the C wave is possibly going to take us back to 66K, which is quite bearish, right? So I don't see that as the primary scenario at the moment. Yeah, I mean, look, if we measure that, it will take us even below. It will take us around about, yeah, 60, 63, 64K. So I don't see that happening at the moment. I will only assume that we will be going to the 60K region if Bitcoin breaks below 80K. So that last swing low that we can see on the daily time frame that happened end of November 2025, so last year, if we break below that, then there is a very, very high probability, like a 80, 90% chance that Bitcoin will go and retest the 66K region, possibly even lower. Now, if we break this pink trend line, in my honest opinion, that would mark the end of the bull market, okay? Any break of this line, and for me, that is one of the earliest signals that we are going to be entering a bear market. My prediction for the bear market is that Bitcoin may bottom between 32K to 50K. That would be my prediction for Bitcoin. But again, we haven't got any confirmation that there's a bear market that's going to begin. I'm still quite bullish for 2026, or at least the first couple of quarters of 2026. And then, yeah, I do think that 2027, possibly towards the end of 2026, is going to be the time where we may start to see pullbacks, more substantial pullbacks, and where we would get what we would know as the bear market. For now, all is not lost, but as I said, we have broken that yellow trend line. We've obviously got this smaller trend line on the smaller time frame, and you can see there's a lot of volume here. The volume profile can show you that there's basically just a lot of people bidding between 87K and around about 90K. It is positive that we still are trying to hold this trend line. If we zoom in, so if we go to the 1 hour time frame, let's have a look, because I've not seen what's been happening the past couple of hours. So yeah, I mean, the move down here doesn't really look like a 5-wave move. I personally would interpret this as a 3-wave. So you've got your A, your B, and your C. So I think if we actually, as I said, if we break below that, if we break below this 87K level here, so this previous low that we made on Wednesday, that for me would define a 5-wave move down. So essentially something like this. If we get a 5-wave move down, I would expect a 3-wave correction, possibly to retest this trend line that we were obviously trying to hold, but then I would expect to see further continuation to the downside, and that is where I would expect that we would fall into, at the very least, 78, 77K, but then after that, you know, we would really need to hold this trend line here. You know, if it's a quick wick below into that region, then that's fine. But if we actually sustain the break, if we, you know, spend a couple of hours, 4 hours, even a day below that trend line, then it starts to become more likely that we are going to go lower. In the meantime, this is quite positive, and I think if Bitcoin can break preferably above this previous high, I've put an alert here for 91,300, but that's kind of like very, very early confirmation that we may get a much larger correction to the upside. But I would personally like to see a break above 93,200K. Okay. We have got a CME gap that we can see on the 1 hour time frame. That is pretty much between like 90, let's just say 94.5K and 93.5K. So we have got a gap there, but I do expect a lot of resistance around 94,000, just above. But yeah, as I said, if we break above this 91,600, I would like us to break above then 93,400. And then obviously next level of resistance is going to be at 97,700. Breaking past all of those levels, then obviously the next logical test is going to be the previous high here at 107,000. So, you know, we've got a long way to go. And I do still see that we may possibly form one more low, even if we do, you know, go up to, 107 to 112K. I do still see us possibly going a little bit lower. But the problem is if we do break that trend line, and as I said, if we sustain it, it's more than likely we're going to go a lot lower. Slight worrying thing as well is this does also look like a head and shoulders pattern, and that we're essentially just working on the right shoulder at the moment. So there are things to obviously be a little bit aware of, but I wouldn't say that, we're completely screwed. I think we need to definitely watch what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I think February is going to be an interesting month. It's typically a bullish month, but we obviously have to see what Bitcoin wants to do. If we look at USDT dominance quickly, because that's one thing I wanted to show, we were in this ascending trend line for quite some time, right? We were just holding this trend line since October 2025, so last year. And we broke out of that trend line to the downside. We retested. This to me looks like a swing failure pattern. And, there is a good chance that we will be on our way down. At the very least, I would want to see USDT dominance get to around 5.46%, or 5.4%. But then, that's when it can get a little bit dangerous. So if we do happen to go back down, retest this zone here, then there is a chance obviously we can push higher. And then that is obviously going to be detrimental to alts and detrimental to Bitcoin. So that's just something to be aware of. I've mentioned this on many, many occasions that there was this trend line that USDT dominance has been trying to break out from and has been testing it since September 2023. And we kind of had a fake out in April last year, but then we had a proper breakout at the start of November. So, as I said, I do expect it to possibly come down to 5.4. Logically, it makes sense for when you break out of a trend line for that trend line to be retested. So, if we're lucky and we get like a small little alt season, we could possibly go all the way down to the 78.6 fib. So, maybe end of February, we might have a good run. And USDT dominance comes back down to retest this region at 4.6%, which would allow alts and Bitcoin, but especially alts, to have a good run. But there's a lot of ifs and there's a lot of probability here. Probabilities are not on our side at the moment, purely based on looking at the trend line breakout. But short term, we may get some relief if we are able to retest these Fibonacci regions here. If I quickly switch to Bitcoin dominance, so the way I see Bitcoin dominance, as you can quite clearly see, is that it would be really, really great if this is essentially just a bear flag on a much larger time frame, and we start to break down from that grey trend line that I've drawn. So if we do, then I don't think Bitcoin dominance is going to be able to hold 58.5%, and I don't think it's going to be able to hold that previous low of 57.2%. We might get small relief bounces from it, but I personally don't think we'll hold it, and I think we'll continue to just go down first test for Bitcoin dominance is going to be that large previous low here at around 54.75%. And then obviously next region is going to be where we've got quite a lot of confluence down here, a lot of volume, and that's going to be between 50 and 52%. So, you can see that I've kind of predicted that we might get, possibly an alt season in March to May. I think early last year, there was a lot of talk from people basically predicting that alt season will run, early this year or middle of this year. And I was talking about this last year as well, that there are key levels and indicators that show that this is a possibility. This is a real possibility that we will get an alt season around April, May. So there's not really any harm, building your bags up at the moment. You know that I'm still holding Pengu. We've got that ADA trade as well. So technically, I'm just going to be accumulating with the hopes that, in the middle of the year, we get a good run. That's kind of the plan. If we take a look at Ethereum, now I've had this trade set up for quite some time. $2,300, $2,400 is still a level to watch, purely because of just the structure of this. This looks like we have a triangle that's forming, and it can break out to the downside. There is a likelihood. The likelihood of it breaking to the downside currently is much higher than it breaking to the upside. But again, I would see this just as a three-wave move down. It would be a little bit truncated if it possibly stops here. So I would expect possibly a bit lower, but I wouldn't be surprised if we just see this get truncated and we stop around the $2,300, $2,400 region. There's a couple of different ways that you can interpret this. So you can say that this is your A wave, this is your B wave, and then the C wave is going to be a 5-wave move down. So 1, 2, 3, this could be your wave 4, and then your wave 5 could just be an ABC with an overshooting B wave. So, there's a couple of different ways that you can look at this. But I would expect Ethereum to begin a reversal. If it's going to reverse, if we're going to get a bull run, I expect it to reverse from this region. Okay, we tested this region end of November. We tested this region start of December. We tested it middle of December. And there's a chance that we break out from the triangle to the downside, and we test it one more time, slightly deeper. And if we look at it from the fib side of it, this is the golden pocket 618 region that we've been holding and we've been retesting. 78.6 is going to be your final area. I'll add the 707 as well, just because it's also important at times. But yeah, you can see obviously the 78.6 fib lines up with that very last low, major low that we had around about $2,100. I might as well also remove the 382 and the 618 because we've already established that we have tested those regions. So yeah, I might move support down a little bit just to cover that 786, because as you can see, we can get wicks, we can get very quick candles, touch that region and bounce back up. So don't be too scared if you do see a breakdown and something like that. That's a real possibility. And I'm not expecting it to happen, but it is something that can happen. And I wouldn't rule it out for now. You can see Ethereum was very oversold a couple of days ago on the 4-hour time frame. Um, if we look at this in a little bit more detail, then we can see that there is a little bit of bullish divergence. Um, Nothing massively substantial, but we have some bullish divergence. I mean, you can see here that the RSI was like, you know, 35, 40 when we actually made that low, that lower low. But this low here, um, which was at $2,930, that was massively oversold. We were like, 20 on RSI. So, um, yeah, I think the weekend, as weekends go, normally there's going to be some consolidation. Volume is obviously a lot less. Um, we could break down. I'd be surprised, but we could. Weekends are either very, very boring or very, very chaotic, and a lot of the time it's very hard to tell. But with Ethereum on the daily, you can see we are literally at the point of control. So if you look at the volume profile here, this is an area that is a point of control. We have another point of control up here as well. So, you know, I do expect just maybe some consolidation. It would be really nice if we had some upside, but we just need to obviously be careful that this triangle may break down to the downside. So it could just be basically A, B, C, D, E, down. But again, we could break up. That's kind of the whole point of a triangle. It's a symmetrical triangle. There isn't any real way to be able to tell that we're going to break up. So yeah, we will obviously just have to see what happens with that. I'm going to go through just some regular coins that I've probably not done in a long time. Very, very similar thing I'm seeing with most altcoins. So like Link, for instance, we can see I am still expecting Link to go higher. I would like to have seen it get to $15. That would have been a 5-wave move to the upside, but at the moment it's only a 3-wave move, and I think it's going to have to restart a 5-wave move to the upside because we're pretty much at where the previous rally started. So we've broken the 786 100%. Yeah, I mean it's just we are going to have to try and see if we get another 5-wave move to the upside. And if we are going to get a 5-wave move to the upside, I really would want to see it break this triangle that I've drawn, but also break briefly above the $14.8 level. So basically $15. I wanna see Link get to that point where we get to $15 as a 5-wave move, and then once we actually see that, then we can wait for a 3-wave pullback, and then that is going to be essentially our 1-2 setup. And that's when we're basically going to hopefully fly, and that third wave could take us, well, it could take us anywhere really. I mean, it could take us initially to $18.6, but it can also go all the way up to, yeah, $27, $30. All right, let's jump to another one that I was actually curious about, which is Sui. So yeah, Sui looks a little bit worrying. I'm not gonna lie. It looks a lot weaker than other alts that I'm seeing. So for me, there's still an expectation that Sui could go lower, even as low as $1. First initial target is $1.2. So it's really hard to say if a low is in or not, right? I mean, this was on Binance. I don't know if I could find possibly another exchange where it doesn't look so horrible. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if you look on any exchange, Sui still got all the way down to like 60 cents. That time that we had that flash crash in October. Uh, Mex is interesting, one of the shadiest exchanges, but that wick only comes down to what's that, 1.4, I think, isn't it? Yeah, 1.4. So that's interesting. So on this exchange, we actually filled that wick. So yeah, I mean, this kind of makes it a little bit more interesting, at least on the MEX chart. If we draw a fib, yeah, I mean, you can see it's a little bit worrying at the moment, purely because we are trading under the 78.6 fib. So, I mean, last resort is the 886, which I will put up here. Yeah, and you can see that's taken us to $1, just above $1, and it aligns with your previous highs here. So for me, Sui doesn't look too good because we're obviously trading under the 786, which is kind of your last, almost your last Fibonacci zone for trend reversal. The 886 is like absolute last case scenario. So this is not going to be a very nice looking chart in general if we are obviously going to have an alt season. It's going to be messy. It's probably going to be a diagonal. I'm trying to draw a trend line, but yeah, I mean, it's not going to be very easy. I mean, that trend line doesn't really make sense. Kind of need 3 touch points. We don't have that at the moment. You know, if we say this is an ABC structure, and let's just put the 618. Yeah, we've broken that. 786. So again, 786, if we count this as an ABC, that again takes us to about $1.17, which lines up very closely with the $1.08 level. So yeah, Suri, in my opinion, isn't looking very good, but I do think that if we're going to get a low, like a lasting low, we're going to get a lasting low between 1.08 and 1.17. Obviously, from where we are now, that's a substantial drop, right? That's like a 20% drop. But if we get a lasting low here and then continue to the upside, then obviously, you know, we can go much higher. So say we bottom on Sui around here, first major target is going to be 6.5 to $8.6. Which, I mean, if you're buying down here, that's essentially a 6x, 6 to 8x. So I think even if we get more blood, as long as we DCA and we get a good average, I am going to be looking at different charts. I am going to be giving possibly more longs. It's just obviously quite risky to signal longs at the moment, purely because we haven't really had any good confirmation that we're bottomed. Doge, again, another one that I'm looking at. You can see that Doge has broken this pink trend line that we've been watching since September 2023. We wicked below it, obviously didn't close. This is on Binance again, but you can see here we retested that trend line and rejected. We haven't broken the previous low that we made in December, end of December, but we came close to it. But I think if Doge is going to turn around, it has to turn around now. And I think that's the case with most alts, because we could still get one more low It's still a possibility, but with Doge, if we get one more low, I think that would take us down to like 10 cents, possibly even as low as 8 cents. Again, though, this is, where is it? This is gonna take us down. Yeah, I mean, this is gonna take us down to like minus 35%. So this is like worst case scenario. But again, if we, let me just take this out because we've already done that trade. If we do get that drop, then, you know, it's not a problem. Um, again, I'm looking for long setups. I am gonna possibly see if Doge can be longed, but I think if we're gonna long anything, um, other than the ADA at the moment, but if we're gonna long anything, then I think we need to just be a little bit careful. Possibly I'm gonna do some spot calls as well because spot is technically gonna be the safest thing um, to to trade at the moment. Leverage is a little bit dangerous. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Let me just check is chat working? Chat is working. Okay. I've been like banging on and chat is not working. So let me just see. Break means take it. Sorry, Sharky. I'm like catching up from like half an hour ago of chat. Um, so breaks means 30K. Yeah, I mean, look, with Bitcoin, um, you know, we've got those levels. We've got those levels to watch, right? So, as I said, if we break below 80K, for me, that is, well, I mean, it's inevitable we're gonna go to 75, 77K. Like, I could bet my life on that. Um, but there is also a very high probability that we drop lower, i.e. 66K, test previous highs. There would obviously be a lot of support around here because this is obviously previous all-time highs. So, there is a lot of volume that would kick in here, a lot of liquidity, a lot of supply, sorry, a lot of demand. Um, so a lot of demand is going to kick in here. Um, but, again, a lot of supply is going to kick in if we get to 107, 106K. So, you know, there are just levels that we got to watch. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I can say on that. Um, that's just Max telling me that Bitcoin is. It's funny, I get notifications from exchanges when Bitcoin moves like 1%. It's quite funny. Um, Next October 10th will be Mex Rug. You know what? I'm not even surprised. I used to trade on Mex, but I don't even touch it much anymore because it's just like a gamble center with those people. I'd much rather go to like Kraken or Blowfin or something like that. Um, but yeah, obviously you guys use whatever exchange you think is best, but just kind of be a little bit careful because some of them are like super shady. Um, they have weird liquidity pools, and your stop loss could just get completely wiped out, just like what happened in October with Atom, that basically on Binance, which it's crazy, right? Because Binance is like one of the biggest exchanges, but Atom essentially went to zero. I'm pretty sure I'm not bullshitting on that one. Yeah. I mean, if you look at look at what happened. Like, that's crazy. That is literally crazy. It doesn't even make sense to look at this chart on Binance anymore. Like, I actually feel really sorry for whoever had a leverage trade on Atom because, yeah, it went to zero. It went to 0.001 and it was at $3.6. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if no one had a stop loss and this was on cross and you had like millions of pounds or dollars? That's it, like wipe out. And I think Binance at the end of it were just kind of like, yeah, we're sorry that happened. We're gonna just like help people who went through that. I mean, how are you gonna help the people? Like you're screwed. What are you helping? Yeah, exactly right, Sharky. People who had a limit order at like 0.009. I mean, can you imagine just for the fun of it thinking, you know what, I'm just gonna have like a $10,000 limit order at 0.05 or whatever. Um, and obviously they wouldn't have like any liquidation price at all because you're so close to zero. Basically, like people literally would have been made like millionaires, and millionaires would have just been made like broke. And no Lambo, man. Like McDonald's. McDonald's is the next stop. It's either McDonald's or Lambo. That's just how it works with crypto. We all know that, guys. We all know that. That's how it works. We want to go for the Lambo, right? We don't want to go for the McDonald's. We don't want to have that cheeseburger. We want the Lambo. So so yeah. That's a great meme, Sharky. That's a great meme. You know what? Photo of Trump wearing a McDonald's apron is just living in my mind rent free. Um, I'm gonna go through like one more coin, so I'm just gonna go through Pengu just to update everyone so we don't stress. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do first? I'm gonna go through ICP because that really depressed me, right? Because I was like, I was like, you know what? I'm holding this, but like, is it really gonna pump? Like, I really wanted to hold it until it gets to $4.5, which was literally my first target. I've not touched this chart in like weeks. And I was holding it on spot, and I closed it because I was like, "Ugh, whatever, literally." And then I'm not even joking, like a couple of days later, it just pumped, mad pump, like to $5 pump from $3. I was so pissed. I was like, whatever. Honestly, whatever, right? It just happens. Like, I predict something, I get fed up of it, I sell, then it happens. It's just karma. That's why I don't even care if I'm like minus, 20% on the little bit that I have in Pingu because, I'm waiting for that shit to pump. I don't even care. Like we'll just see how it goes, right? Um, it's been bouncing around my daily stop loss. We've had a few candle closes outside of it, but I'm not gonna let it go at the moment. I did draw this little trend line. Uh, you know, like it's on a lower time frame, like 4 hour time frame, but you can see we broke out of it, so we might come down to retest, but I mean, I still have faith that we will at least get um a pump. We have a half decent average, so that our average isn't terrible, but yeah, you can see that obviously we've got these previous highs here around 0.0134, 0.0136 kind of area. So there is a chance that we obviously this could be a lasting low for Pengu. And I'm on Twitter, and there's like congressmen who have changed their profile picture to Pengu versions of themselves. People are talking about Pengu. Is it going to be the next whiff in a way where whiff literally was like 20 cents and then just like blew up to like $3, $4, whatever the hell it went to? Maybe. I mean, look, if this thing does a 10x, we're laughing, right? But 10x is a long way from here. But, you know, for for an alt season, if an alt season happens, yeah, I mean 100%. I mean, first target I'm looking at is around that 0.03 region, which is technically a 3x from here. But realistically, I'm going to be looking at between 5 cents and 7 cents. Really, I think that's kind of where we're going to land if we do get an alt season. But it's going to be pretty tough to break this 3 cent region here because you can see that's kind of pretty much where we massively dumped on the 10th of October. It's also lining up with that trend line, and you can see on the volume profile as well, it's pretty much the highest level of volume that we have there. So it's going to be tough, but I mean, look, we hold this shit and we get a 3x from here. I mean, we're kind of laughing, right? So let's just see how we go. Yeah, believe in Pengu. I 100% agree. Yeah, Dash, that was a privacy coin, right? I'm pretty sure that was like XMR and ZEC, was it, or is it Zcash? Um, that is it a privacy coin? I'm pretty sure it's a privacy coin. Maybe I'm chatting shit, but I'm pretty sure it is. Um, yeah, it is a privacy coin. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, so I mean, I don't know, man. Like, you know, we're in kind of the privacy phase, right? Everyone's kind of like, oh, privacy, and it's gonna be like amazing. Um, you know, it's kind of tough to say if Dash is really gonna make a new high. Um, I clearly had drawn this trend line like 50 years ago, and we broke out of it. And you can see that we basically reached a floor at like, well, let's say $20. We reached a floor. And then like we literally had a pump from $20 in September to like $150 in November. So it almost 10x'd in like 2 months. This is what I'm saying about certain alts like this. They're crazy, right? They 10x and you just literally you put like 10 grand on it and you've got like 100K. It's crazy. Um, but it's had its pump. Um, this I actually do see as a three-wave move. Um, I don't actually see it as a five-wave move. So we can say one, two, and then our third wave is an ABC. Then we've got this fourth wave. Fifth wave has to get higher, right? Fifth wave has to get to like $200-300 in my opinion. And then if we get that fifth wave up, then we can watch for, pullback. We may only retest like the $100 region, but to be honest, if we get that five-wave move up and a pullback, three-wave pullback to $100, then yeah, that can send us to literally 500 plus. Um, but I haven't researched too much about Dash. All I know is that it's a privacy coin and everything is going crazy at the moment. I held from the top to the bottom, held for months, pumped after I sold. Man, that sucks, dude. You know what? I have been there, done that a million times. Held a coin, sold it because it doesn't look like it's moving, and then it pumps 10x. It's just how it goes, you know? Like you have patience with a coin and then you end up broke, or you have patience with a coin and you end up a millionaire. Um, all right, Sharky, I'm gonna just like this is gonna be the last one, and then I'm gonna just eat because I'm starving. But let me have a look. So what we got here? So with VeChain, we have a three-wave move down, and this is like a B, C, yeah. So it's a five-wave move down for the C wave. Okay, so we've got three-wave move. Um, this looks like a five-wave move, but then what's really weird is we kind of had a five-wave move down. Um, all right. Let's just say if this was an ABC. So this is our A wave. We can measure our A wave, and we can take it to the B wave high, which is about there. Mm, all right. I mean, I'll be honest. There is a chance that VeChain can hold this level, and you can see here we're basically at support, right? This is support. Um, we've got a previous low here from November 2020 that was 0.00889. That is our low, and we have to hold that low. Because I think if we don't hold that low, then VeChain is just going to go straight down. I think for me, there's not going to be much holding it here. Um, we could go much lower. We can go to like 0.003. So I think we need to hold that level. If this is an ABC structure to the downside, then it does kind of take us to, yeah, I mean, I would say hold this low. Um, this is really the low that you want to hold. Um, so this could essentially be our final wave down. If we just maybe look at it on the too many notifications I get. If we look at it on the well, I say lower time frame, daily time frame. So yeah, I mean, wave one, wave two. You could say this is wave three, where we had that wick. Wave four. We've not broken that wick. We've just tested it. So I wouldn't say that this is a 5-wave move down. This is still a 3-wave move. We're very, very deep in support though with V-chain. We have to turn around at this point. That's what I'll say on this. Lose this level, and we're gonna go much lower. Okay. But we're at support, and support is always a good time to load up your bags a little bit. But yeah, first level you really want to see broken for V-chain is going to be this level here. Let me make that a little bit more clearer. It's going to be the 0.0154 level. That's the first level that you want to break to possibly confirm that a long-lasting low has formed. Okay, last message I'll look at. Do you see LTC breaking out after a multi-year downtrend? You know what? Everyone takes the piss out of LTC. I see on Twitter everyone jokes about it all the time. Uh, well, I mean, it's broken the 786 that I had labeled from like ages ago, so that's not a good sign. I mean, it's tough. I mean, yeah, I mean, look at this chart. You know, thing is, right, this looks a little bit like XRP, and XRP was ranging for years and years and years, and everyone just took the absolute piss out of everyone who was in the XRP army, and it just pumped from like, 50 cents to like $3. So you can never fully rule out a coin. Litecoin has been around since the dawn of time, right? It's like 2018. It's probably one of the oldest coins. Um, But I mean, it's ranging. It is literally in a range. Um, and I think if you're really gonna trade this, you're just gonna trade the range. I mean, yeah, I mean that's kind of what I would do. I mean, you'd kind of buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high. I mean, it's literally just in a range. Um, so you know. All I can say is as long as Litecoin is holding that previous low that we made when we flash crashed, which was $54, $52, then yeah, we can go back up to range highs at $134. If Litecoin breaks $134, and as you can see we have a weekly candle closure above $134, then you can say, all right, it's time to get bullish. We can see a 300 to $400 Litecoin. But for now, it's just range bound, and you just play the range. That's what I would do. Uh, I think ADA looks a bit different as far as I'm aware. Um, yeah, I mean, ADA looks a little bit different. To be fair, it is a little bit different. With ADA, we are holding this support. We're already in this trade, right? So as I said, we need to hold this support level. We broke out of that trend line. I expect a pump. And I hope there is a pump. But as I said, we need to. This is on a lot of alts, by the way. Like I see this chart on a lot of alts. Um, we need to hold the previous lows from December. We need to hold that support. And if we hold that support, then at least we can get a relief rally. But only a relief rally at the moment is possible to, levels like this where we have point of control. Or even where we flash crashed. That's all I can say on that. Okay, so I'm probably gonna call it a day. I feel like I've been talking for a while. I can't actually see how long I've been talking for. Um, oh, I can, yeah, 50 minutes. Okay, so this was a pretty decent stream. Um, So yeah, that's probably all I have to say really. I mean, yeah, you guys know I'm always in the chat. Um, any questions you can ask me. But yeah, weekend trading, I very rarely do new trades. We're just gonna sit tight on Penguin, ADA, and just see what Bitcoin does really for the next couple of days. And I think the next 3 to 6 months um, are going to be very telling, especially the next couple of months. I would say are going to be very, very telling on what direction 2026 is going to go in. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. As usual, preserve capital, manage your risk, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you guys. Peace out.